Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The hate for Narendra Modi has breached all boundaries, both internally and externally. There has been a series of coordinated attacks to defame the Sarkar, which is directly running down India's growth story as well. We have seen in the past few weeks ago how foreign hand is at play, from the Adani crisis to BBC documentary to meddling in India's democracy. It seems there is no end to these dubious plans. Today, in one of the fiercest attacks on this ecosystem, Narendra Modi's Mantri launched a multi-pronged attack on critics of the Modi Sarkar. Busting the Videshi Raga, S. Jaishankar, External Affairs Minister, questioned the timing of the release of BBC's documentary. He asserted that it is not accidental and termed the Western narrative as war by another means. He said that though this is poll season, which has started in India, the action is taking place in New York and London. Going after the so-called cheerleaders of the opposition, the foreign minister warned of a sinister plot to paint an extremist picture of Bharat. He even panned Rahul Gandhi for giving an upper hand to China during the Taiwan face-off. Listen in to the unsparing attack by S. Jaishankar, NDA minister.
There is a phrase, war by other means. There is also, think of it, this is in London and New York. See, look, this is a globalized world. People take that politics abroad. Politics of India doesn't stop at its borders. Sometimes politics of India doesn't even originate in its borders. It comes from outside. You know, ideas come from outside, agendas come from outside. Otherwise, please tell me why suddenly, there's a surge of reports and, attention and views. I mean, were some of these things not happening earlier? I mean, I gave you the example of Assam.
Yeah.
I mean, people speak about, okay, you had to make a documentary. Many things happened in Delhi in 1984. Why didn't we see a documentary on that? Look, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, okay? What I'm explaining to you is actually politics at work. Why is it difficult to understand that there are ideologies and political forces outside India very similar to those in India, and the two are working hand in glove. Part of the problem is when political forces in India are not doing so well electorally, they tend to kind of summon up this support system, if you would, or the echo chamber, or call it what you would. I think they are deliberately misrepresenting the situation. I give you two very specific examples of that. You remember that ho halla which happened on a bridge? They were building a bridge in Pangong Tso.
Yeah.
When did that area actually come under Chinese control? The Chinese first came there in 1958 and Chinese captured it in October 1962. Now,
but does the opposition's attack on the Sarkar when it comes to China hold water? The BJP asks, can the Congress and company forget how India lost its golden opportunity to become the permanent member of the United Nations Security Council because former Prime Minister Nehru gifted it to China? Just 3 months after the 1954 Panchsheel Treaty, China was back to playing dirty games by violating border rules at Ladakh. The blind faith of Nehru in China resulted in China wresting 20% of the disputed land, which is called Aksai Chin. The list goes on and on. But the opposition blames Modi Sarkar for conceding India's land to China. Listen in.
जब देश की सरहदें हिंदुत्व अपने आप को कहने वाली बीजेपी की रिजीम में हमारी सरहदें सेफ नहीं हैं, भारत के नागरिकों में एक डर की भावना है कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने चाइना के साथ कंप्रोमाइज़ किया। चाइना के सवाल पे प्राइम मिनिस्टर बहुत डिफेंसिव हो जाते हैं और फ्रस्ट्रेशन में वो अनाप शनाप विपक्ष को बोलते हैं। जयशंकर एक बहुत ही फ्लेवर इंसान है क्योंकि जो उसके ऊपर लीडरशिप है वो उन्हें काम नहीं करने दे रही है। अगर चाइना ने जो कुछ हमारे साथ किया, यूनाइटेड नेशन में चाइना को हमने क्यों नहीं घसीटा? भारत की आर्मी, भारत के लोग हम सब लोगों ने कहा कि हम सरकार के साथ खड़े हैं, लेकिन यूनाइटेड नेशन में भारत की सरकार ने चाइना के खिलाफ कदम नहीं बढ़ाया.
Even when it comes to the Soros strike, the report by independent source, open source intelligence. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings me to the legitimate question we're asking on the Newshour tonight. Is this propaganda completely exposed tonight by S. Jaishankar? This ecosystem propaganda? That's the question, and that's the debate coming up on the other side. Jaishankar versus lobby. That's the hashtag and the debate coming up.
You're watching the News Hour first. Debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
And joining me on the debate tonight is Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, Member of Parliament of the Rajya Sabha and spokesperson of the of the BJP. Also joining me tonight is Waris Pathan, spokesperson of the EAM, Sushant. Sareen, strategic affairs expert, also joins me on the Newshour tonight. Dr. Sanjay Jha, suspended Congress leader, author, also joining us on the Newshour tonight. We're also joined by the Samajwadi Party spokesperson, Sameer Singh, and Sridhar, Reddy, spokesperson of the BRS on the Newshour tonight. I want to ask you, Dr. Sanjay Jha. Today, the foreign minister has called a spade a spade. He's not only talked about Rahul Gandhi and China and his comments on China, he's even talked about the fact that the timing of the BBC documentary, the Soros attack on India, the fact that Mr. Rahul Gandhi is across the globe. I want to ask you, Dr. Sanjay Jha, even tonight, with so many facts being put on the table by Dr. S. Jaishankar, do you think the Congress and the opposition really needs to do some soul searching?
Navika, I heard Mr. Jaishankar's interview with a great deal of interest, but I must be very upfront. And in short, it was puerile, infantile, and at times even preposterous. And I will take just 1 minute to debunk all the 3 points that he highlighted on. Let's start with the George Soros comment on the Hindenburg report. I mean, doesn't Mr. Jaishankar know that the markets have wiped off Adani Group valuations by $130 billion US? To call that a foreign conspiracy is like revealing a height of intellectual dishonesty or complete ignorance of market realities. I mean, the BJP cannot be living in a fool's paradise, for God's sake. They should have greater intelligence to kind of at least respect, I think, the intellectual heft of the viewers of your program. I don't want to even comment on the Hindenburg report. I can tell you that the Adani story is still unfolding and unraveling. And I can understand the discomfiture of Mr. Jaishankar, because Mr. Modi happens to be in the forefront of the allegations against him. Point number 2, let's go down to this China issue, Navika. Very pertinent. You know, ridiculing Rahul Gandhi is not going to get this government anywhere. As I can tell you, the territorial integrity of India, the sacrosanct nature of our boundaries is not the prerogative of a ruling party or the monopoly of a government. Everyone has the right, we are all stakeholders, to know what's going on at our borders. And I want to give you one example why knowing about here. I mean, the kind of embarrassment coming from the highest office tells you why nobody can trust this government. Mr. Jaishankar then tried to do a damage control, but trust me, everyone knows that this government uses foreign policy for domestic political posturing, the same muscular machismo that Mr. Modi wants to position himself to the voters in India. At risk is our borders with China, and we need to put it out of
well, Dr. Sanjay Jha, you say this government uses foreign policy for domestic politics. I don't know, but are you saying that Mr. Rahul Gandhi and other opposition parties do not use foreign policy and matters of foreign policy that are extremely serious as a matter of politics? I mean, that's holier than thou. But let me get in Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi. Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, calling the bluff of Rahul Gandhi is not what the BJP will benefit by, says Dr. Sanjay Jha, and he says that nobody in this country trusts the BJP Sarkar at all on issues of foreign policy, especially China?
Unfortunately, I would like to add what Sanjay Jha has said. Sanjay ji, Congress party is reclining on foreign forces to damage the image of Sri Narendra Modi, then the Bharatiya Janata Party, now after he became Prime Minister, to the extent of damaging the image of India since 20 years. I'm saying with firm conviction, 20 years. You have written 15, 16 years back to US Senate, the 60 member of parliament of the country, that Modi ji should not be. Economy was going down, the rate of growth was up, well below the rate of inflation. At the time, George Soros has praised the Indian government about their economic policies. And now when India is becoming fifth largest economy, and to the knowledge of our opponent friends, Mr. Waris Pathan and Mr. Sanjay Jha, I would like to say, first time a major country like Russia has started trading in rupee. Now, I am not talking about the smaller countries like Mauritius and Sri Lanka has agreed. I am not talking about the Nepal, Bangladesh, Uzbekistan, 34 countries are agreeing. It is Germany and European Union has come to the talks on trading with rupee. There may be some vested interest, and that's why I am saying, sir, हम बहुत सुनते थे अपने बचपन में, इंदिरा जी कहती थी इसमें विदेशी हाथ है, मगर आज तो हाथ का विदेशी साथ और साथ की करामात बहुत साफ दिखाई पड़ रही है. There is no if and but about it. And as far as the fact is concerned, जो संजय झा जी ने बोला उसी में से पॉइंट कहता हूं. In Galwan, 20 of our soldiers got martyred. In which fight? In which this is a hand-to-hand fight, without firing even a bullet. And the Chinese said there not even a single injured. Sir, how ridiculous this data is. कि एक तरफ के 20 लोग हाथापाई वाली फाइट में मारे गए और दूसरी तरफ कोई घायल भी नहीं हुआ. And you are relying on the Chinese claim. Sir, this is the bankruptcy of the opposition when they came on relying on China, when China is passing through its worst diplomatic isolation after Tiananmen Square. If I ask my good friend Sanjay ji and other opponent spokesperson, can they name just 4 countries which are taking the side of China other than North Korea and Pakistan? Why I'm saying 4? Because in Quad we are with 4 countries. You please name, these are the 4 countries which in the issue of conflict with India are on the side of China. Please let me know. And then the people will be knowing that who is having a dexterous foreign policy under the leadership of Jaishankar ji, under the guidance of
Respond, Dr. Sanjay Jha.
Well, Navika, he did not answer.
Respond, Dr. Sanjay Jha.
Yeah, thank you, Navika. सुधांशु जी, आपने तो मूल्य प्रश्न का जवाब ही नहीं दिया. फिर वही बयानबाजी, फिर वही भाषण. आप ये बताइए दर्शकों को कि मोदी जी ने देश को झूठ क्यों बोला कि चाइना के तरफ से कोई भारत पर आक्रमण किया ही नहीं, कि हमारे सीमा के अंदर कोई आया ही नहीं. ये आपने एक तरीके से भारत के जो बहादुर, जो हमारे जो सैनिक है, उनका आपने अपमान किया, क्योंकि हमारे बहादुर शहीद हुए वहां पे, और चाइना ने उसका फायदा उठाते हुए कहा कि गलवान वैली तो फिर चाइना के अंदर ही है, क्योंकि हम तो अपने ही इलाके में थे. देखिए, आप जो हैं, आप लोग हर चीज में राजनीति करते हैं. नाविका, द ट्रेजेडी ऑफ द बीजेपी इज दे हैव पॉलिटिसाइज्ड द मिलिट्री and they shoot from the shoulders of the military on the opposition. Can you imagine how cowardly it has become? आप लोग कायरता का एक मसाल बन चुके हैं. आप लोग जो इतने
my friend Dr. Sanjay Jha, you know, normally I see you and find you extremely reasonable in the arguments you put out. But I want to ask Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, the charge on you is that you're making everything political. Is the opposition not making things political? Are they not seeing the design that BBC doesn't make any documentary on the 1984 riots only before every election on the Prime Minister and the 2002 riots? Is that a coincidence, Sudhanshu Trivedi ji?
This is the statement of army. You people, not us, sir. It is you people. You always put question on the claims of the military, despite the fact that in other major countries like Aman al-Jawahiri मारा गया. आप बताइए, किसी ने पूछा हो मुझे सबूत दीजिए. ओसामा बिन लादेन की डेड बॉडी दिखाओ, किसी ने पूछा अमेरिका में? हियर इज द प्रॉब्लम सर, यू पॉलिटिसाइज. एंड इफ आई आस्क यू सर, बांग्लादेश किसने तोड़ा? अभी कहेंगे इंदिरा गांधी ने तोड़ा. अभी कहेंगे इंदिरा गांधी ने तोड़ा. Nobody takes the name of General J.J. Jacob, who has led the paratroopers in Dhaka. Nobody takes the name of General Jagjit Singh Arora, who was chief of the Eastern Command. And even nobody takes the name of General Sam Manekshaw, who was army chief. It was Indira Gandhi, Indira Gandhi and Indira Gandhi. अरे हमारा स्टेटमेंट मिलिट्री देता है, फिर आप क्वेश्चन करते हैं. The fundamental problem lies here, sir.
Can I respond to him very quickly?
Well, let me get in Mr. Waris Pathan. No, Mr. Waris Pathan. Mr. Waris Pathan, raising questions is the job of the opposition, and they must do that. Whether it is China, whether it is the economy, whether it is unemployment, of course you must ask the questions. But the question I want to ask is, don't you also have a duty to look at what works against India and whether or not the opposition is giving a handle to foreign powers when they train their guns on issues concerning India? Whether it is हमारे जवान पिट गए तवांग में, whether it is the issue of during Doklam private dinners happening, whether it is the issue of George Soros who regularly baits India and makes statements against the Prime Minister in this country, a democratically elected government in this country, and also the fact that BBC always finds it extremely convenient to come in just ahead of some election or the other. I want to ask you, how do you respond to Mr. Jaishankar's statement that whether or not there are elections in New Delhi, preparations have begun in the United States and in London?
Well, Navika, I will answer your questions in two parts. First, on the statement made by Jaishankar on BBC, and the other statement which he spoke about China. First and foremost, the BBC made a documentary on the 2002 pogrom of Gujarat, wherein the genocide of Muslims happened, and at that relevant time, Narendra Modi was the Chief Minister of Gujarat. And if I want to watch a documentary, under what provision of law can the government stop me from watching a documentary? So many Indians, they wanted to see what is there. See, truth surfaces, it never dies. The reality will never die. We all know what happened in Gujarat. We saw Bilkis Bano. See, I did not interrupt anybody, sir. Sir, I did not interrupt anybody. I did not heckle. I am making my point. Mr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, my good friend, you are a senior person. Please allow me to make my point. Let us have a decent debate. Then we all saw what happened in Gujarat. Bilkis Bano was raped, gang rape. She was pregnant. A 6-month-old daughter was killed. Her mother was gang raped. Her sister was gang raped, killed. So people wants to see what happened there. What was the role of then Chief Minister Narendra Modi, but the government of the day does not want to watch us. Jaishankar spoke about BBC that how can they just come out before the election? Elections happen everywhere. Even now the Meghalaya election is going on. So will the BBC has to see and watch? When will they try to show it to the people of the country? No. They did their job, but the government wants to suppress the freedom of choice, freedom of expression, which is against the constitution, against the democratic values of our country. Second thing, he spoke about China, that day China wale to jab hi aaye the so many years back, and so he should have spoken what is the present situation at the borders. Modi does not even have the courage to take name of China. He is not showing his 56-inch chest to China. He is not showing his red eyes to China. Wherein China came in 2,000 square kilometer inside our territories they have occupied. We have got the video footage to show that what happened in Galwan. Modi said nothing happened. We lost 21 soldiers. 21 of our soldiers were martyred. In what happened in Tawang? They came, though we are very proud of our soldiers, they gave them the befitting reply and they had to run away the Chinese people. But then what steps have we taken to ensure the safety of our soldiers? That answer Jaishankar did not give. Third thing, what message are we sending you to the world at large? Today itself, in Rajasthan and Haryana, people come out on the street and they were abusing, threatening the police that if you try to register an FIR, if the FIR is not taken back within 24 hours, if Monu Manesar is arrested, we will do this, we will take revenge, we will burn this and that. Don't you think that this message is going directly outside the country as well? We have all seen during Nupur Sharma's time how our bureaucrats were called, they were summoned by the foreign people and they were questioned. Today, what happens to democracy of our country when such kind of threats are given to the police? Is there law and order in our country? What happens to democracy? What happens to the constitution? People are moving with guns in their hand, flaunting their AK-56 rifles in the car. They are putting it to the YouTube channel.
So democracy is under threat. The George Soros point of view being echoed by Mr. Waris Pathan, Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi. Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, George Soros की भाषा यहाँ वारिस पठान भी बोलेंगे, कांग्रेस पार्टी, इनकी डेमोक्रेसी रोज खतरे में पड़ जाती है. डॉक्टर सुधांशु त्रिवेदी.
Actually, from China, he has drifted and shifted to so many topics which are really close to his heart. But I will stick to that topic. George Soros is saying, even giving an amount that he will spend around 1 billion, and still you are saying that is nothing. I would like to put forth the timing and the consequence and the suspected conspiracy. Sir, the time at the time when BBC has done this, for the first time there was a defense expo in India. 32 countries defense ministers were here. 32 countries. It for the first time happened outside Europe. I can ask you, you name a single instance in which the defense minister of 32 countries have assembled outside Europe. India, which was the biggest importer of the arms and the defense products, has become now emerging as an exporter. More than 400 items have been banned from importing. Now government has taken a decision that 75% of our defense production has to be totally indigenous. Do you not think in a conspiracy emerging in the Western world? Because outside Western world, you name a single country which is capable of making a defense production, and BBC has not reported a single thing on this defense expo. At the same time, they tried to bring the thing 20 years back, despite the fact it has been duly settled by the legislative, judicial and executive process in India. तभी तो मन में शक पैदा होता है, और आप जैसे लोग उधर से सुर, इधर से ताल, और उधर से तराना, इधर से याराना. And that's why the suspicion starts. Because now we have become a global player and Modi ji has become the most popular global leader. So global conspiracies cannot be ruled out, sir.
No, can you direct Times now to show the story?
Absolutely, and let me get in Mr. Sameer Singh of the Samajwadi Party.
Or the debate as per their thing. How can you force them anybody? You cannot force BBC. They have put it at a relevant time. The elections are taking place in our country every month, every week. How can you stop them? How can you? What is there to hide, sir? If there is nothing against the government, if Modi is clean, why don't they allow people to watch the
international organization?
Come clean. Let them.
Sushant Sareen ji, while banning. Well, Sushant Sareen, banning any documentary made by anybody is possibly not the right way to go about things, because you ban something, it becomes more popular and more sought after. Having said that, do you find it strange that people are in the opposition party are going out of their way to support BBC? Itna support to they don't give to anybody in this country.
Navika, I am against these kind of bans. But I think sometimes governments start banning things because they think that it will unnecessarily either rake up old issues or probably, poison the communal relations even more. Because I think it's a fairly well-known fact that the BBC documentary was a hit job. It's like, you wanting to make a documentary on race relations in the US, and you only interview guys from Black Lives Matters or Antifa or those kind of characters, and then you intersperse half-truths with some things, and you present a documentary, and then you project it as though this is the unalloyed truth. Unalloyed truth came out in the Supreme Court judgment. Mr. Modi was put through the mill, multiple cases, multiple peshies, all sorts of things happened. But if somebody is not going to be satisfied, they're not going to be satisfied. I just hope that, as Mr. Jaishankar said, although he only spoke about 1984, I would really wish Mr. Waris Pathan would ask questions about a whole lot of other riots which have happened in this country. From Bhagalpur in '89, and I could go back to Ahmedabad in 1969. I could just rattle off, riot after riot after riot after riot.
Muzaffarnagar.
I think the fact of the matter remains, you want to rake it up, you can keep raking it up, and you can keep, wounding the public and not move on. But that is one part of it. The second part of it is, does subversion of democracy happen? Look at the debate in the US itself. When they start talking about the Russians interfering in their democratic system, or other countries saying that the Chinese are trying to influence their elections. For example, the Canadians say that the Chinese were using influence operations in their elections. In the US, the Chinese have tried to intervene. The Russians have tried to intervene. The Americans have done it in other countries. So yes, subversion of elections and democracy in other countries is part of the modern day warfare. Sometimes governments do it. Sometimes organizations like this Soros fellow, those guys do it. I think he just shot his mouth off, and he kind of, made public what his intentions were. But to think that people like him do not indulge in this kind of propaganda, I think it's a mug's game. They very much do it. On the other thing, I think on the issue
absolutely, and Sameer Singh, I'm coming back to you, Sushant, Sareen, but Sameer Singh, that's the question I want to ask you. It's not unheard of that there are people who have, conspiracies to try and swing elections in different countries one way or another. And during the Trump election, it was the most vociferous of tales that was told about the Russian, interference in American affairs. So when it is said about India, why is the opposition so, wide-eyed, innocent, and says, "Arey, dekho, foreign powers ke baare mein ye keh rahe hain, they have nothing, they are trying to defend themselves." I want to ask you, Sameer Singh, the fact of the matter is that these things have happened, and why should it not be seen as, as a matter that follows a certain design? And all of this BBC, Soros statement cannot be seen just coincidences which are unconnected.
Navika, I think I would like to present a different angle, which is my point of view, might agree or disagree with it. But my question, or in fact my statement on the entire issue that we're discussing today is it the first time that questions are being raised on how Adani gained all this wealth in a very short span of time, or whether democracy is in danger in the country? The opposition, the Samajwadi Party and other oppositions in various states, regional parties and Congress have been raising these questions for a while now. So when these statements come all of a sudden, say if the Hindenburg report is to be mentioned, or the statement by Soros is mentioned, this is just re-emphasizing what the opposition has been trying to convey to the people of the country for a long while now. We have always been of the opinion that Adani has gained unusual favors from the government, which is how he's built his empire in a very short span of time. Now Hindenburg, probably yes, the opposition could not come up with a research, with a detailed report of how things have gone wrong, of what exactly Adani has done. And Hindenburg report has come at a time when things are, if you can say it as a coincidence, fine. If you can't, because if we talk about the BJP and the spokespersons and the leaders of BJP have always reiterated that they have ultimate faith in the Supreme Court of the country, in the judiciary of the country, and blamed the opposition that the opposition somehow does not respect the judiciary. But politics of convenience here. Now when the Adani question, the Adani Hindenburg report is in question, and certain sections go again, in fact, I would like to mention the recent case where a letter has been, a sealed letter suggesting the names of the members of the inquiry set up were given to the Honorable Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court rejected that letter, rejected that envelope, and said that they will be choosing their own members to head the report, or as members of the inquiry. So when the Supreme Court is interested in the probe, then why are we going all hungo about the thing that
so what's your
the
point?
Hindenburg report
what is your question, Mr. No. What is you're going into a whole description of various things. What is your question? What is your point?
My point exactly is that when we are saying that these are conspiracies and the opposition is because the Honorable External Affairs Minister did say that there are certain political parties or the political framework within the country which is working in hands with the foreign players. Well, my entire discussion right now was this, that the opposition in the country has been raising these very questions for a long time now. So when foreign players enter into this scenario,
all right, Mr. Reddy, is Mr. Jaishankar wrong if he says that the opposition seems to be raising the same questions that some foreign powers, want to create a controversy over and question the credibility of India? Yes or no?
By saying this itself, Honorable Minister Jaishankar tried to change the entire narrative. How can you compare some foreign elements with the opposition parties in India? After seeing, Navika, I can tell you, after seeing these debates on Soros and reaction from the couple of union ministers, I can say BJP is overreacting on Soros issue. And for an instance, let's agree that Mr. Jaishankar is perfect in his statements that
overreacting. Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, BJP overreacting on the Soros issue, BJP overreacting on the BBC issue, BJP also overreacting on the China issue. Please respond. Please respond. I'm short of time. I'm sorry, I'm short of time. Sudhanshu Trivedi, please respond.
Allow me a sentence.
Please allow me to complete my statement.
One sentence.
Just one sentence I would like
Dr.
to say.
Sudhanshu Trivedi,
Those
respond.
who are saying that we are overreacting, sir, most of the time, just in one sentence, in verbatim, Soros is saying nothing but what exactly Congress is saying. And you are saying we are trying to overplay it. आपने Hindenburg report पे parliament install कर दी. And you are saying we are trying to overplay. On the BBC, you made the issue in parliament. And you are saying we are trying to overplay. That's why we are saying that we are having a strong suspicion that before every session of parliament, a report publishes in foreign media, whether it was at the time of the Rafale, whether at the time of Greta Thunberg during the Kisan Andolan, whether it is the Pegasus time or the Hindenburg and the BBC documentary. Is this just a mere coincidence in the last 7 or 8 years? That every time when the session of parliament starts, just before that, a report emerges in the foreign media and the opposition starts playing it to the tunes of foreign indications.
Well, that's the real point, and Sudhanshu Trivedi nearly nails it. Sushant, Sareen, you have 10 seconds to make your one-line remark.
Navika, I have evidence that Mr. Jaishankar
Seem to have lost that line with Sushant.
Jaishankar is wrong. The BBC made a documentary on the 1984 Sikh riots and they were broadcasted in the year 2010. So Mr. Jaishankar has been fact-checked and he's been proven wrong.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there are coincidences that have been pointed out by the BJP. The Congress and the opposition sticks to their point of view. Well, it's election season. But can anybody deny the fact that there are just far too many coincidences when it comes to matters relating to India? Whether it is China issue, whether it is the Kisan Andolan, whether it is the stock markets and the Adanis. The point is, why is the opposition only singing and repeating the tunes that are made by foreign agencies, clearly who may have an axe to grind with India? We'll leave it at that. Thank you very much to my panelists for joining me on debate number 1.